Yes. Okay, full disclosure here, I'm definitely one of those people that feels drop, but I feel it the day before I'm supposed to be leaving that person. And I've found myself like in that kind of a cycle where I'm like, why am I grumpy? And why do I want to like pick a little, I want to be a little snippy and pick a little fight. And it's actually just me going, I know it's coming. Let's just get all of the connection you can get possibly right now. And and I have to remind myself, like, there's no need to like store up connection. It's not going anywhere. I'm just perceiving that there will be a loss of something that might actually not happen.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Hi, this is Meshai and Fin, and welcome to another episode of Ask Us Anything, where we respond to community questions and try to the best of our ability to respond and talk about and process through just things that might come up with everyone. I'm super excited to be here. This is like a happy May. Actually, we're recording this a little earlier, so I'm assuming it's a happy May.
Yeah. We apologize in advance if May has not been a happy May. We didn't know. It was April.
We're manifesting happy Mays over here. Okay, so I am a coach with Expansive Connection Coaches. We love working with people within all forms and interpretations of ethical non-monogamy. I am a licensed therapist by trade and pretty much only work in these spaces as a coach. I have certifications in trauma therapy and also in sex therapy. And I've been walking this walk for about 4.5, almost 5 years now. And I'm working on doing my best most days.
Yeah, I think that's all we can ask from one another, right? Is to do our best. Is in most days, right? Like I might not have my best tomorrow, but maybe I'll find it in a week or two if you let me rest a little.
What about you?
What about me? Well, first of all, I want to say that I think one of my favorite parts about doing these questions and answers is that there aren't right answers to any of them for the most part, that there's just a whole lot of possibilities and a lot of the stuff we're doing is challenging and difficult and everybody has a different perspective. You and I have different perspectives sometimes, although I edit out yours when it doesn't match with mine, but
it's all been censored.
Yeah. But yeah, so on my end, I am a podcast host. I host the community and podcast with Emma, the Normalizing Non-Monogamy podcast that you're listening to. Most of you probably know who I am, but just in case you don't, I've been doing the non-monogamy with Emma for about 17 years. It's looked a whole lot of different ways, from just talking about it to doing some swinging and friends with benefits for quite a while, to doing a polyamorous quad, to figuring out what the hell is next, and we don't really know all the time, and who knows what's coming. So we're just doing our best as well. I also recently, in the month of March, finished my sex and relationship coaching program through the Somatica Institute.
Yes.
I am not certified necessarily, or not even necessarily. I'm not certified, but I did complete the program, and it was fantastic. 18 months of deep diving into relationships and boundaries and consent and all of the stuff that goes into all of this. And it was very eye-opening for me. So I'm excited to be here, bring some of that knowledge, bring some of my own anecdotal experience into the party today.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm just going to be a really big geek for a minute. And I love the fact that you said that there's just so many possibilities. I'm a little obsessed, and I'm saying that sarcastically because I'm not a little obsessed. I'm very obsessed with Dr. Ellen Langer. And she wrote The Mindful Body and on becoming an artist and reinventing yourself through mindful creativity. And she talks about how we've all been taught to look at the world in absolutes and how nothing is an absolute, and that everything should be looked at as like, this could happen. And there's so many other possibilities. And so I love the fact that you said that. Just made me think of that.
Sounds like a book I might need to read. as somebody who lives absolutely in the absolutes a lot of the time. Homework for me,
Homework.
Meshai. Well, as a perfect example to this, maybe we jump into a question about drop. And this one is not, again, there's no right answer to this. These are just some things that we've experienced, some things that we've heard about, and maybe just some tips and tricks we've picked up along the way. This question was written in, so I'm going to read it to you all in my most soothing voice. Or
I'm
just,
excited. Let's do this.
This is my Saturday morning voice, actually. So I don't know if it's the most soothing. All right. I would love a deep dive into the different ways of coping with poly drop. From the perspective of the person experiencing the drop, from the perspective of the partner or partners who is the object of the drop, and from the perspective of the metamors experiencing their partners in drop from other partners. So, before we jump into this, maybe we should explain what people mean by drop, or what this person means by drop is basically we can talk about it in the sense of relationship or polyamory, but also just anytime you've been building yourself up to go do something really exciting, you do the exciting thing's over, and it's a bit of a bummer.
You're a little sad about it.
It's a bit sad, right? This happens to me. I start this on Friday morning, maybe Thursday evening, and by Sunday, I'm like, I call them the Sunday blues. Looking forward to Monday, that I was so excited about the weekend and everything that was going to come, and the weekend is over, and I feel that drop like Sunday hard.
Yeah.
So that's the
Okay.
drop we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how do we cope with it in non-monogamy? How does it show up in non-monogamy?
Well, I've always thought of the drop as like, in its most basic form, is like the other side of NRE. Like you have this huge, concentrated chemical brain boost of like all the goodness,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a short amount of time that it's like packed into there, and then you step out of that context and environment, and you immediately don't have the constant like IV drip of NRE juicy chemicals. And so what your brain does is it looks around and it goes like, where's my hit? And I don't know a lot of other people, but maybe like if you like NRE like I do, I'm like, I can clean my house. I can do all of my bills. I have a ton of energy. I'm a happy person. And so my brain is just like chemicaling it up. And then as soon as that supply is gone, my brain's like, what do we do that for? I would like some of that back. And so it's basically just poking you in the back of your head, like, go get more, go get more. And so that's what the drop is. The drop is like just the release of all those chemicals because you don't have the stimulus to create that at that moment. And your brain's like, I would like some more. So sometimes it's really nice to be able to remind your body, your spirit, your person that part of this is just chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And that you will be okay if your brain is given some time.
Yeah, I think that was my first sort of bullet point here, was just having grace and patience for everyone involved, including yourself, that this is real. It sucks. It feels sucky a lot of the time. And that you kind of feel it. They're probably feeling it. Perhaps your partner might be feeling it. Their partner might be feeling something of the effects. And we'll talk about the metamors in a few minutes. But I think just being aware that this can sometimes turn into a vicious loop where maybe you're feeling that lack of connection or that feeling that drop. And we start to do things that maybe aren't in our best interest. Maybe it's picking a fight or starting a conflict just for the pure connection, right?
Yes.
You're feeling like that it's going to be going away. I want to get it all. And, oh, look at this. If I can make it hard, not that this is a conscientious thought, but like if we can make it hard, we can be deep in a conversation and we can connect. And so I think just being aware that it exists and that it can be a bit of a loop.
Yes. Okay, full disclosure here, I'm definitely one of those people that feels drop, but I feel it the day before I'm supposed to be leaving that person. And I've found myself like in that kind of a cycle where I'm like, why am I grumpy? And why do I want to like I want to be a little snippy and pick a little fight. And it's actually just me going, I know it's coming. Let's just get all all of the connection you can get possibly right now. And and I have to remind myself, like, there's no need to like store up connection. It's not going anywhere. I'm just perceiving that there will be a loss of something that might actually not happen.
Yep.
And then, kind of doing like a checking the facts with myself. Like, does this emotion fit the facts? Does the intensity fit the reality of the situation? If I remove my emotions and thoughts from this, how do I see this differently? And then I realize, oh, I'm not really pissed at them. I'm just grumpy. I'm not going to have a great immediate supply of NRE. And then giving myself grace for the fact that, yes, I'm going to miss this person and my brain is going to really miss this person.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think one of the pieces in there that I would, if I were to give recommendations, some tips and tricks, I would say to, first of all, knowing that this is a thing is sometimes revolutionary for people. They're like, oh, I didn't even know, right? And so knowing it's a thing, but then being able to talk about it with your partner and talking about what you both need. And so the reason I think that is really important is because we cope with these things in different ways. And just a really like stark example could be when I'm feeling the drop, perhaps, I'm like, the day before we are going to part, like, let's fill that day to the max. Let's go and do so many fun things because then I won't think about it. I won't be sad. We'll maximize the time.
Such a good plan.
That's a great plan for me, but maybe my partner's like, I want to lay on the couch and be sad and cry. I just want to go for a walk and be in our emotions and reflect on it. That's what they need to sort of prepare themselves for saying goodbye. And so if we have two opposing strategies for coping with it, we're going to have a tough last day because I'm going to be at the park going like, why aren't we having a great time? We're riding roller coasters and doing all the shit and you're sad. What's going on? Why aren't we having the fun that I was trying to force us to have?
I don't know if anybody can tell that Finn is not an Enneagram 4 right now, but that's like the opposite of like all the things I would do. I'd be like, I just want to sit here and be sad and come be sad with me. And Finn's like, let's go do all the things.
Yep.
I love that.
Can you tell I experienced drop too, Meshai? Yes. I have some very strong coping mechanisms for this.
I like this though. That's true. There can be like opposite sides of it. And it's an interesting like space to try to marry both different styles so that everyone gets their needs met. And I think one allows you to turn your brain off a little bit and just kind of enjoy. And the other one requires that you sit in it and admit like this is what's happening and be transparent and vulnerable. And what a great way to meet in the middle. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's room right then for both to happen. So like, well, hey, let's go to the amusement park and have a fun morning, and then we'll spend the evening watching a movie and crying on the couch together. Whatever it is that we both need. So maybe we can meet both of those.
Yeah.
There was a thought that just popped into my head too that is maybe less discussed, which is the potential that you're feeling a big amount of drop and your partner doesn't. And you're kind of like, oh, you're not going to miss me? I'm sad as hell to be leaving. Why are you not sad as hell, right? Why? So like, just again, recognizing that we all process these types of things differently. Who knows? Maybe they have something big and exciting going on the next day and their mind is blocking out the sadness by looking ahead to the next thing. Or maybe it's saying like, so who knows what's going on? But I think just being able to talk about it is helpful and to not take it personally, like brain chemicals.
And sometimes not taking it personal is hard. That's why I like to use the checking the facts scale of just being able to sit down and remove your emotions and the blame and the intensity from it, and then re-enter the situation with just reality and the facts.
Yeah.
And sometimes that just allows you just to temper yourself a little bit more.
Yep.
I think also having a good coping skill for afterwards to look forward to, whether that's hanging out with friends or having that cool thing that you have the next day that you're already thinking about doing. That way there's more things to look forward to. And it's not, oh, there's this sad thing that's happening. It's acknowledgement of like, I'm going to miss that person. And I have all these other things I get to do and I'm excited about them as well.
Yeah. And I will throw in maybe one other tip. And these are also my maybe a little bit of my OCD comes through here, which is the thinking ahead to what's coming. Think about and this doesn't sound super fun, but I think it can be helpful. Think about the drop while you're in the NRE phase. So you kind of touched on earlier, Meshai, that like when you're feeling good, you can do the bills, you can clean the house, you can do all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're going away for the weekend, you're feeling good on Wednesday and Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Clean the house, do the bills, stock up the fridge with ice cream and cookies, like do
Yes.
all of the shit you are not going to want to do on Sunday evening when you get home. Cause it's really fun to tell yourself, I'm excited. I'm just going to be excited. I'll take care of that on Sunday. And you
Yeah.
are not going to want to take care of that on Sunday. I promise you that is not the thing you're going to want to do when you walk in the door, because you're going to be sad. You're going to be bummed. You're going to want to put on a TV show and eat ice cream. If
Yeah.
that's your jam.
I love that. So talking about giving yourself grace for the drop.
Yeah.
Like you're giving, yeah, that's brilliant.
But you have to know it's coming. But
Yes.
we're telling you it's coming. So you're
Have to
prepared.
be honest with yourself.
Yeah. And I loved what you said about like finding what is the thing you need that next day or even that evening, right? Do you come home and be like, I can't even go back to my own apartment. Maybe I need to just go straight to a friend's house and crash with them and watch a movie. Maybe it's a transitional thing. Like whatever you need to do it. Take care of yourself.
Yeah. So making sure you're not pretending like I'm going to be fine and not avoiding the feelings either. And so then whatever it is that you do matches what would help you just to kind of stay in some form of homeostasis until your brain evens back out.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about the metamors as well, though?
That's what I was just going to say. I think that covers the two people, perhaps, and we've just gone down to two people, but whoever, right? That covers the amount of people who are in the experience. What about the metamors? What about them?
They deserve grace too. I was thinking at first, like, okay, when I think about the transition of like the person that was in the experience of it, it might be nice also to go to your metamor and be able to say like, I need that. I want to be sad, but also tell you that I'm excited to see you and help to like manage that drop by doing skin to skin contact, just kind of flooding the body a little bit with that oxytocin and those good dopamine feelings and that comfort, just to help like manage or mitigate that drop. Chemically might be nice. And also, we talked a little bit about having a re-entry plan, along with like boundaries for the metamor so that they can show up and be supportive, but also know that they're being loved on and excited to be seen and were missed. And so whatever that re-entry plan is really important. And it probably needs to be like almost ritualized so that it's very normal. You're not sitting there trying to think about what you have to do or plan for that. And it helps to manage feelings.
Yeah. I think the re-entry plan is so helpful. And I think this is one of those that can be really jarring, right? I know we've scaled this sort of up in some ways to like a weekend getaway, but I mean, it could even just be your partner went away on a date for the evening and they come back and they're excited. But the one you and I talked about was like you go to pick your partner up at the airport and you're super excited to see them. They've been gone all weekend and they jump in the car and you're like, oh, I'm so glad to see you. And they're just like, a little bit of Eeyore action. They're sad. They're bummed. Like, so, that can be a really good time to fight. Hey, I was excited to see you. You weren't excited to see me. Why aren't you? You must just love them more than me. Blah, blah, blah. Story.
Cue up the overthinking and analyzing. Yes.
And nothing like capping drop with a nice argument cherry on top. Huh?
I don't know anything about that.
No? Well, I'm glad you've never experienced that one. So I think that re-entry plan, that ritual is really important. And I think you learn a lot of those by going through it. What do we need to come back together? I think, again, not to be the devil's advocate, but I think your plan of, skin to skin contact, that can be really nice and soothing. I can also see a situation where, hey, you were just off having wild and crazy sex all weekend, and that's hard for me. So the first night we're together, I can cuddle with you, but that's about it.
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
whatever both people's
Mhm.
needs are, to say,
Mhm.
how do we come back together in a way that
Mhm.
supports both of us?
Mhm.
And not because it's you or because it's me or because there's something wrong, but just everything's flowing.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah.
flowing in a tough way right now. What do we do? What do we do when we come back together so that we don't get caught having that argument or making the drop worse?
Yeah, some people's reentry plans are like making sure that the drive to the airport and back home is a long one where they just talk about in a higher level their weekends and they don't actually talk about specifics or like touching or anything intimate. It's just high level. This is what happened. And some people's ritual of reentry has also been like, we just play board games
Mm-hmm.
and hang out and have like fun. And for some people, it is like I need that cuddle, and it
Yeah.
can be stand on. I know that some people like I need to have that
Yep.
like step by step walk into physical intimacy with you. All of those things, anything in between, all it has to do is work for the two of you
Yeah.
or more of you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right. The dream is right that everybody comes home and everybody's just happy, and I'm so happy to see you, and I'm happy you
Hmm.
had a great weekend. But that we also know that's not necessarily the reality, right? And it could be,
Hmm.
I'm happy to see you, I'm happy you had a good weekend, and I'm struggling. So
Hmm.
we can't even, decompress. We can't even deconstruct the weekend together for 2 days, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
We have a 48-hour no talking, whatever it is. You get to make it up for yourself, and I
Yeah,
think that's the beauty of it.
I like that.
The last thing I will throw out there is another resource. If us talking about this and you want a little bit more, you're like, that wasn't quite enough. There's a really great episode from Libby Sinback on making polyamory work. There'll be links, if I remember, in the show notes, but you can find it just by searching "Making Polyamory Work" drop, either in your podcast player or whatever. But it's a great sort of deconstruction of this whole concept and some additional sort of thoughts and musings on it. So highly recommend that.
Hmm.
All right, the last one for today, the second one, the last one,
Hmm.
about libidos and mismatched sex drive. So let's have a listen.
I am in a triad. I am sort of dealing with the fact that I am the non-nested partner to a nested pair. High overview, I have a very high sex drive. One of my partners is very much in alignment with that, and the other is not. I struggle with adapting to that and still feeling that my needs are being fulfilled. It's not anything I necessarily would put in a negative box, but I definitely would love to connect with my other partner a little bit more. I came into my bisexuality a little late in life because of previous shame and ridicule about even being very sexual. Took me a long time to get to that point where I am very comfortable in who I am and more positive about my sexual experiences. Back to the matter at hand, though. I'm just curious if anybody works through varying levels of desire between their partners and how they adapt that to their relationship. Thanks. Have a great day.
I just have a quick follow up to my earlier question, talking about the disparities in sexual desire. And I was wondering what the thoughts were on the differences in partners' libidos. At what point do those differences become incompatibility? And it's something you can't necessarily change or grow. Thanks.
So this is a really great question. I also find it to be really kind of a great general question and also like specifically hard. Both things can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, so having a high sex drive partner and then having a very low sex drive partner, I know that like for me, the first things that come to mind are like connection and intimacy disparities, having hard conversations with people about needs versus like wants, or people judging you on both sides of this, and trying to figure out where do I put all of this like energetic love and sexual energy I have for this person if it's not actually desired in that manner? So this is a good question.
Yeah, and like that to me, that's sort of like the high level generic, the mismatch. But then we get into the weeds of the excitement of, well, there also is a match. There is this sort of a matched libido and drive with one person while simultaneously having it mismatched with another, and then all three people are in a partnership together, feeling
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
disparity, right? Versus, I think it is easy, even in a monogamous partnership, to feel the pressures from the outside. We're not doing it enough. We're doing it too
Mhm.
much. We're,
Mhm.
all of the things, we're never doing it quite right.
Mhm.
And then you take that and you zoom in really close and you say, well, now it's not even the greater society. It's literally within my own relationship.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it the same as somebody else. It's causing hurt. It's causing me to feel shitty. It's causing them to feel shitty.
Mhm.
So it's just extra magnified. And I think that
Mhm.
just it's real. It's very real to be in that. And it sucks and it's hard.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're struggling with feeling like your needs aren't being fulfilled, because let's be honest, if it's kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, they probably aren't.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to validate that. Also, you're allowed to have needs. So one of the things that came to mind, and I don't know if you've already thought about this, but for people who have a lower sex drive, a lot of times the fear is that if they start to be sensual towards their partner, that it then has to lead to sex. Or there's like this perception of like, I can't, don't write a check, you can't cash, you know?
Mhm.
And so,
You got me all revved up and now you don't want
yeah.
to, fuck? Like, what the hell?
What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yep.
So, so it's really kind of important to be able to have the conversation with your partner about what does sensual connection look like. So we know what sexual engagement looks like. What does sensual connection look like for us? What would feel good and comfortable, and expectation void to a certain degree, and also how much energy do you have? Sometimes the blame from this or trying to feel like there's a disconnect can be really removed from the conversation when you talk about how much energy you have. So, like, let's say, for example, your partner was someone who worked at a daycare all day long. By the time they get home, they might be completely touched out. Like, I can't deal with anybody else touching me. That's different than I just don't want to be intimate with you.
Mhm.
And so being able to talk about like, I have this level, like scale of 1 to 10, like I have level 2 energy right now. I'm like, okay, what does that mean sensual wise? Well, I just want to hold hands and cuddle. And is that good enough for you? And without it leading more, or feeling like there's expectations. And sometimes that takes the pressure off, and you can still be very intimate with your partner without it leading to like conflict or feeling like something isn't good enough on either side.
Mhm. Yeah, I think really decentering the actual act of penetrative sex and
Hmm.
really thinking
Hmm.
about what is it that our partnership needs.
Hmm.
And I think in this case, there is a concept to think about that I simultaneously think gets talked about a lot and also not enough, which is if we look at a triad
Hmm.
dynamic, three people in a relationship, there's actually more than that going on.
Hmm.
There's three dyadic partnerships. So there's if I'm speaking for myself, there's me and partner A, me and partner B, and then partner A and partner B
Hmm.
all have their individual relationships. And then there's the me, partner A, and partner B all in one relationship together. So there's at least four.
Hmm.
Some people will break this out and add a few more. There's my relationship with myself. There's my
Hmm.
relationship with the relationship. So yes, there's potential for more, but there's at least four in
And
a
this is
triad.
called polymath, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, yes. And so the reality that all of those will look the same and be equal is just really really rare, I think, and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
pretty unrealistic to expect.
Hmm.
And yet it's also really, I think, hard and intimidating when you're watching your partner and another partner who you're also partnered with interacting with each other in ways that you don't.
Yeah.
And it can be really eye-opening and jarring to be like, well, wait a minute, that's what they need to feel good or to feel loved or to feel connected. We're not doing that. We must be lacking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus, well, no, that's just the way we do it. Our connection is different than their connection, but it's so, I think, ingrained in us to compete, to meet, to match.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that can be a really slippery slope to feeling all of these things, the shame, the crummy feelings that come with, I've been too sexual, I'm not sexual enough. They come in, and then there's this need to match. And then often nobody really gets their needs met because everybody's trying to match in the middle. I'm trying to have more sex than I want. You're trying to have less sex than you want. Neither of
Mm-hmm.
us are really that happy. But if we could, like you said, stop and talk about, what do we need? Maybe it's, we need to talk about sex for a while before we have it. Or maybe I just like talking about it. I don't actually like doing it. Like, who knows what people's flavor is, but being able to talk about that, I think it's really, really critical.
And it can also feel like you're leaving people out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I leaving you out because this connection doesn't look exactly like the other connection? And if I feel like that, then perhaps I'm feeling like, okay, then there's something wrong with our connection because this small amount that I would like to do it isn't as much as the large amount that you all are doing that. And does that mean that that someone's unfulfilled in this space? And I could see where that disparity might lend towards feeling really disconnected. And if you both agree that this is good enough for the two of you, then there is no need for that perceived connection because it only matters if it works for the two of you or the three of you.
Yeah. I think one more time to say, like, that need, I will call it a need to compare for validation, is so strong though. So even like us sitting here intellectually telling you this, like, to do it is a very, very different thing.
Just do it.
Just be autonomous and separate out all of the emotions from the multiple partnerships here, and then don't compare them to each other. That's it. That's all you have to do.
It's so easy. Not at all. The other thing I was thinking about that kind of like piggybacking off of what you're saying is if you have a lot of need for that connection, maybe finding other ways in which to build intimacy and sensuality between the two of you. And that could look like candlelight dinners or going out and doing a new activity together. Like, novelty really does help to build connection between partners. And so that kind of intimate space doesn't always have to look like a sensual sexual space. It can also be something non-sexual. And with that, fill that space and that need that you have. It could be like getting, like side-by-side massages, or I don't know, going to like a Korean day spa and just being naked, but also taking care of yourselves and each other at the same time without it being sensual. So are there other ways in which to be in which to build compatibility around intimacy that don't just look like this? And would that work for the two of you?
Yeah. And I think that kind of leads in, I think, in some ways to the sort of follow-up question that was asked around, when does this become an incompatibility? When is the disparity in this an incompatibility? And I think it sort of, in my opinion, hinges a bit on what you just shared. Can we come to the table and talk about other things that build our partnership up? Or, perhaps sex is such a focal point for you that it is a deal breaker, right? And that's okay too, right? And I think all of this to say, it's really up to you to decide at what point does this become an incompatibility. Can we sit and talk about, okay, a candlelight dinner and cuddling and walk in the park holding hands, that meets my intimacy needs in this partnership. And maybe it does not meet the other person's, but they're like, you know what? That doesn't necessarily meet my intimacy needs in general, but it meets it for us because I love us. I love what we do. And would I be happy and maybe even quote unquote happier if we could go and hook up and have wild and crazy sex for hours a day? Sure, maybe. But I think also there's the reality that, is that really going to feel good if you know that's not what your partner wants, right? So maybe it's a desire, but also it's not a desire with you because I know you wouldn't really have a good time with that. So
Mhm.
then it's looking at it and saying, am I okay with the level of connection that we're going to have in this partnership moving forward? If I am, it's not an incompatibility, right?
Mhm.
Even if it's like a wild discrepancy between what you want. One person is maybe on the asexuality spectrum
Mhm.
and the other person is like hypersexual. Those two people can definitely have a fulfilling partnership.
Yeah.
It's a matter of them deciding that that works for them and
Mhm.
that their sex drives are not the basis of incompatibility for them as partners.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I like that a lot. And the answer might be yes, it is.
Yeah.
This doesn't work for me, and this is incompatible
Yep.
for what I need in a relationship, and being honest with yourself about that too. Because if that's literally how you're feeling, then the other person is probably feeling the same thing as well. And so, being able to have that honest conversation about, I don't know that this is working for either one of us, and the truth is that at the end of the day, we both want the other person to be happy and fulfilled.
Yeah.
So that can
It's
also be there.
yeah. It's better for you to be happy and fulfilled than us to be trying to force each other to be happy and
Hmm.
fulfilled in the way that we both want. Like it's
Hmm.
hard. It is hard to
Yeah.
give that up because
Yeah.
you want it so damn bad with somebody.
Hopes, expectations. I've already thought this all the way through. I'm an overthinker, so I've already planned the next 4 months. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I've already got our wedding planned.
Yeah. I mean, come on. We got to work on this.
Yeah, letting go at that point is tough.
Yeah.
And I also, again, that's not to say that you just throw your hands up and give up if it doesn't match. Again, I think there's many ways that
Hmm.
you can create and uncover compatibility completely independent. And this one just happened to be around sex. We could have been talking about food, or we could have been talking about sleep patterns, or any number of
True.
large pillars in a partnership that you could
Hmm.
find incompatible that might be tough to move forward on. And can you remove the focus on that enough to where your relationship does become compatible if you're just not focusing so much on one incompatibility?
Hmm. Or one aspect of
One aspect. Yeah.
that. Like, can we build it up in other ways that mirror this, that feel just as fulfilling?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll maybe one other quick thing before we wrap
Yeah.
up. I think, again, just to remind everybody that can be really hard to do in a one-to-one when you're sitting in a dynamic with, a triad, a quad, or some other
Hmm.
larger polycule. It can be really intimidating to feel like, man, my connection isn't the same as their connection. It must be less than, right? It's that.
Or like admitting it. If I admit it out loud, does it make the whole
I'm so glad you said it.
the whole thing crash down,
Yeah.
Or if I say that, this isn't working for me and I need more, am I now going to be ostracized from the group, or they're going to think there's something wrong with me, or that I'm not for the group
Yeah.
as a whole, because I've decided to mention this. So it can be really scary because, a lot of people don't want to rock the boat because they're like, what we have now is good. If I just keep quiet, maybe it'll stay good and I'll eventually adapt. It can be really intimidating. That's true.
I will maybe add one other element of intimidation there. If you are coming into an established partnership,
Hmm.
we'll say the language of you're the third, you are entering an established dynamic.
Hmm.
That pressure to match and fit in and adjust to
Hmm.
the norms,
It's huge.
very real, very intense. And it's really easy to sacrifice yourself and your needs to align with the system.
Hmm.
And that's not to say that you can't or shouldn't at times, but I think remembering, like being able to, again, remember who you are, what actually is working for you versus just acquiescing to what you've stepped into.
Yeah, and a good thing to remember with that is that, they liked you for who you are and what you brought to the table. So changing that to fit them and their personalities is actually kind of working counterproductive to why you were such an interesting and amazing person in the first place.
Yeah. And also messing up means you might walk away alone and they walk away together. And so like it
That's
sucks
hard.
that pressure is like,
Uh-huh.
there is an imbalance there.
Uh-huh.
There's a real imbalance there.
So make sure that you're also naming that imbalance. I think sometimes we don't want to talk about the imbalance because we're trying so hard to make it equal.
Yep.
We're trying to make sure that everybody's needs are met and everyone's happy. And the truth is that it doesn't exist within a monogamous relationship. It sure as hell does not exist in a doesn't exist in a non-monogamous relationship.
Yeah.
So just stating there's an elephant in the room and it makes me feel this way.
Yeah.
And I still have these things that I'm worried and concerned about. Instead of tiptoeing around it, because sometimes the tiptoeing just makes it worse.
Yeah, totally. Even if like you said, even if everybody wants it to be equal, even if everybody, again, not that non-hierarchical means equal, but even if they're coming in and saying, this is a non-hierarchical partnership, but you're looking at it going, okay, well, they're nested together. They have a home, perhaps a longer relationship. Maybe they have kids or a family. We could say all day long that this is non-hierarchical, but the reality is the structure creates some more security in some ways for them than it does for me. Very real.
Very, very real.
Okay, well.
That's a good point. Thank you for stating that one at the end, because that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hugs to both of these callers or one caller, one writer for sending in your questions and your thoughts and sharing vulnerably with us and helping other people, because you aren't the only people thinking about these things, struggling with these things.
Yeah, we appreciate all the feedback and all of the questions, so keep sending them in. We really enjoy being able to spend this time working within the community, so that's cool.
Yes. And as Meshai just said, please keep sending in questions. We'll be back in June to do this again. We'd love to answer your question or questions about pretty much anything you want. If you have any feedback for us, you can also send us, an email or a voicemail with, thoughts, feedback. You're even allowed to disagree with us if you want. That's okay.
This is true.
We welcome it. We're prepared for it.
I welcome different perspectives. Don't have the authority on all things. And so
Correct.
That would be kind of cool to hear a different perspective too. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. So until next month, please, again, reach out to us, send us an email, send us a voicemail. You can find Meshai and all of Meshai's work at expansiveconnection.com. There are links in the podcast show notes down below. You can send her an email. You can also send me an email. You can, you know how to get a hold of us. And we'd love to hear from you. And we'd love to hear from you. That's
Yay.
it.
Okay, cool.
All right. We'll see you in June, Meshai.
I'll be waiting with bated breath. There we go. That's what I was trying to say.
I think, bikini season for me.
Bikini says, are you planning on wearing a bikini?
I'll be in a bikini for our June recording. I promise.
This makes sense. This makes me very, very happy. I'll be there.
All right. We'll see you then.
All right. Bye.